Before it became the holy text for every cubicle prisoner in America, Office Space was almost murdered by the very corporate machine it mocked. The studio wanted it dead, the marketing team buried it alive, and somehow that made the whole thing even more perfect. Fox spent more money trying to hide this movie than promoting it, which turned out to be the most honest marketing campaign ever created for a film about corporate incompetence. Number 1. That red stapler you remember so clearly never actually existed. Stephen Root clutches that cherry red swing line like his last connection to humanity. But here's the thing, Swingline never made a red stapler. The prop department just grabbed a regular black one and painted it bright red because Mike Judge wanted something that would pop on camera. He needed Milton's obsession to have a visual anchor, something that would make you understand why this man would burn down a building over office supplies. After the movie exploded on DVD, fans started calling Swingline demanding the red one. The company got so many requests, they actually started manufacturing them. Their sales team couldn't understand why people suddenly needed red staplers until someone explained that a movie prop had created real consumer demand. A fake prop became a real product that now sits on thousands of desks around the world. Think about that for a second. A movie about corporate absurdity accidentally created an actual corporate product line. Swingline still sells the red stapler today, marketed specifically as the Office Space stapler. They lean into it completely, selling a fictional rebellion back to actual office workers. The prop that was painted in 5 minutes became a permanent part of office supply catalogs. Number 2 takes us back before Peter Gibbons even existed. Milton came first, and he was supposed to be the whole movie. Mike Judge created Milton as an animated short for MTV's Liquid Television back in 1991. Then it moved to Saturday Night Live, where it ran between 1993 and 1994. These weren't just quick sketches. They were fully realized pieces about a man slowly losing his grip on reality while everyone around him pretended not to notice. Originally, Judge planned to make Milton the star of the feature film. The whole script revolved around him. But he realized that watching Milton for 90 minutes might be too much, too painful, too close to actual mental breakdown. So he created Peter Gibbons as the main character and pushed Milton to the edges where he could simmer and burn. Stephen Root studied those original cartoons where Judge himself did the voice, watching them over and over to capture that specific mumble, that particular way Milton swallows his own words like he's afraid of being heard. Root said he had to learn to speak while barely moving his mouth, keeping everything trapped inside until it explodes, which is why Milton feels so complete from his first mumbled complaint. The character had been alive for years before the cameras rolled, brewing in Judge's mind since his own office days. Number 3 reveals where all this rage really came from. Before Judge created Beavis and Butthead or King of the Hill, he worked as an engineer at a company called Parallax Graphics in Silicon Valley. He lasted about 3 months. The company made hardware for video games, and Judge was supposed to be living the dream, working in tech during the boom years. Instead, he found himself drowning in meetings about meetings, filling out forms about forms, and watching his soul leave his body every morning at 9 a.m. The cubicles, the mindless meetings, the printer that never worked, all of it came from those months of feeling his soul drain away bit by bit. Judge called it overachiever yuppie culture, and he hated every second of it. His co-workers talked about stock options while he wondered why nobody else seemed to notice they were wasting their lives. He quit without another job lined up because he couldn't stand another day of pretending to care about graphics cards and quarterly reports. That's why the movie feels so painfully real. It's not satire, it's documentary. Every character in Office Space is someone Judge either worked with or became during those 3 months in Silicon Valley hell. The 4th secret almost killed the best scene in the movie. That beautiful destruction of the printer in the field, set to Ghetto Boys, nearly got cut because studio executives thought hardcore rap didn't belong in a mainstream comedy. They wanted something safer, maybe rock music, maybe no music at all. Judge had to fight to keep it. At the 25th anniversary reunion, He said the executives kept pushing for different music, something that wouldn't scare away suburban audiences. They suggested alternative rock, classic rock, anything but gangster rap. But Judge knew that nothing else would capture that specific kind of rage. He understood that the contrast between three nerdy office workers and hardcore Houston rap was the entire point. The music had to be angrier than the characters could express themselves. The combination of three office workers destroying technology while gangster rap plays became one of the most cathartic moments in cinema history. People watch that scene when they've had bad days at work. They watch it after getting fired. They watch it before quitting. It became therapy for an entire generation of office workers. Number 5 solves a mystery that bothered fans for years. TPS reports actually means something. Judge revealed it stands for Test Program Set, real engineering jargon from his coding days. But here's the beautiful part. Even knowing what it means doesn't make it any less meaningless. It's exactly the kind of acronym that starts with a purpose and becomes meaningless paperwork that everyone pretends to understand. In Judge's real office experience, TPS reports were actual documents that engineers had to file, but nobody could remember why or what happened to them after filing. They just knew that not filing them meant getting called into meetings. Engineers get the inside joke, but everyone else just feels the pain of bureaucratic nonsense that defines their work life. Every office has its own version of TPS reports, those forms that exist only to prove you did the work you already did. Judge just gave them a name that sounds technical enough to be real and meaningless enough to be universal. The sixth fact proves this movie literally changed the real world. About 4 years after Office Space came out, TGI Fridays quietly removed their mandatory button flare policy. No announcement, no press release, just a slow phase out across all locations. Judge's crew found out when restaurant workers told them customers wouldn't stop making Office Space jokes about the flare. Servers reported that every shift, multiple customers would reference the movie, ask if they had enough flare, or joke about doing the bare minimum. A comedy scene was so effective it changed actual company uniforms across America. The fake restaurant tchotchkes killed a real restaurant's dress code. Think about the meetings that must have happened at TGI Fridays corporate headquarters, where executives had to discuss whether a movie had made their uniforms too embarrassing to continue. Imagine being the executive who had to explain that a comedy film had turned their branded expression of fun into a symbol of corporate oppression. Restaurant industry publications later confirmed that multiple chains reconsidered their flare policies after Office Space made forced enthusiasm toxic to their brand. Number 7 gave us a phrase that outlived the movie. Michael Bolton, the character, was originally scripted to call the singer a no-singing asshole, but the team realized that sounded like they were accusing him of lip-syncing, which could mean lawsuits. The legal department flagged it immediately. David Herman improvised no talent ass clown on the spot during rehearsal, which solved the legal problem and created an insult that entered the permanent vocabulary of anyone who's ever had a terrible coworker. Herman later said he just combined words that sounded funny together, not realizing he was creating a phrase that would appear on coffee mugs and motivational posters for decades. The insult works because it's somehow both juvenile and sophisticated, angry, but not quite crossing into actual profanity. It's the perfect office insult, something you could almost get away with saying in a meeting if you said it fast enough. For number 8, we have to talk about dedication. David Herman was locked into a contract with MAD-TV when Judge offered him the role of Michael Bolton. The contract was ironclad with years left on it. To get fired and freed from his contract, Herman deliberately sabotaged a table read by screaming all his lines until the producers had no choice but to let him go. He didn't just read badly, he screamed every single line at top volume, even the quiet ones, especially the quiet ones. He got himself fired on purpose just to be in Office Space. That's method acting applied to contract negotiation. The MAD-TV producers were so confused they initially thought he was having a breakdown. Herman later said he felt bad about it, but knew it was the only way out. He burned his bridge to MAD-TV so completely that they never asked him back, even as a guest. He sacrificed a steady paycheck on network television for a small role in a movie that might have gone straight to video. Number 9 reveals how much of what we quote wasn't even in the script. Ajay Naidu's breakdancing moment came from him just goofing around between takes. He was trying to make the crew laugh during a long setup, and Judge saw it and immediately called for cameras. Paul Wilson's famous line about "not gonna work here anymore anyway" was completely improvised when he forgot his actual line and just kept talking in character. The script supervisor started to call cut, but Judge waved her off. The looseness on set is why these throwaway moments feel so natural and quotable. Judge let the actors find truth in the moment instead of forcing them to stick to the page. He created an environment where actors could fail safely, where forgetting a line might create something better than what was written. Many of the background conversations you hear were actors just talking about their actual office job experiences while in character. The 10th Secret explains why Lumbergh haunts every office in America. Gary Cole studied Judge's original Milton cartoons and just copied that nasal, passive-aggressive drawl directly. He watched them on repeat in his trailer. He didn't try to create something new or add his own spin. He took what Judge had drawn and made it flesh. Cole said he wanted to become the animated version rather than interpret it. That choice transformed what could have been a one-note boss into the eternal archetype of middle management incompetence. Cole revealed that he based the physical movements on his own worst boss, a man who would hover just outside your peripheral vision while talking. The suspenders, the coffee mug, the way Lumbergh leans slightly forward when he speaks, all of it came from Cole combining the cartoon voice with memories of actual workplace trauma. He later said, strangers still do the voice to him on the street 25 years later. Number 11 is The Resurrection Story. Office Space had a $10 million budget and made only $12.2 million worldwide in theaters. By Hollywood math, that's death. Fox basically abandoned it after 2 weeks, pulling it from most theaters and writing it off as a loss. But then something strange happened. DVD sales exploded. Comedy Central started running it constantly, sometimes multiple times in a single day. Cast members say those cable airings made it go viral before that word even existed for culture. Ron Livingston said he knew something had shifted when college kids started quoting lines back to him that weren't even funny out of context. The movie that failed in theaters became the most quoted film in every office break room in America. By 2003, it had sold over 6 million DVDs, making more than 10 times its theatrical gross in home video sales alone. For Fact 12, you can actually visit Initech. The bland low-rise exterior is a real building in South Austin at 4120 Friedrich Lane, now housing a company called Dunn & Microstack. The Austin Film Commission lists the exact address because fans keep making pilgrimages to that parking lot where Peter, Samir, and Michael grumbled about their lives. People take selfies in the exact spot where Peter parked his car. It's become a shrine to workplace misery. The current tenants have learned to recognize the office space tourists who show up, take photos, and leave without explanation. Security guards say at least once a week, someone recreates Peter's slow walk to the building entrance. The building's Yelp page is full of office space references rather than reviews of the actual business inside. Number 13 takes us inside Tchotchkes. The interior scenes were shot at the Alligator Grill on South Lamar in Austin, though it closed years ago. The exterior was a different location entirely, a closed Bennigan's in the same city. Movie location trackers have mapped every shot to the old layout, preserving a restaurant that only existed as a nightmare of forced enthusiasm. When the Alligator Grill closed, fans held awake, coming in uniform with exactly 15 pieces of flair to say goodbye. The owner said he'd never seen his restaurant so full of people who weren't actually ordering food. The 14th fact shows the director stepping in to save a scene. Mike Judge only played Stan, the passive-aggressive manager at Tchotchkes, because Texas Casting couldn't find anyone who nailed that particular brand of fake supportive management speak. They auditioned dozens of actors, but everyone either played it too mean or too nice. Judge stepped in at the last minute and delivered the role so naturally that most people don't realize they're watching the director torture Jennifer Aniston about flair. Judge said playing the role made him physically uncomfortable because he was essentially becoming every bad boss he'd ever had. He had to take breaks between takes because maintaining that level of passive aggression was exhausting. Aniston later said working opposite Judge in that scene helped her understand the entire movie's perspective, that every awful manager thinks they're being reasonable. Number 15 is a detail you can miss if you blink. Lumbergh's blue Porsche has a vanity plate that reads MYPRSHE. It's exactly the kind of status signaling you'd expect from a boss who schedules you for weekend work while pretending it's a casual request. The car itself becomes another character, a rolling monument to unearned confidence. The Porsche appears in multiple scenes, always parked across two spaces or in a spot reserved for someone else. Cole said they added the detail about Lumbergh parking incorrectly because it was the kind of small power move that makes someone truly hateable. For 16, we need to discuss the most triggering printer message in history. PE load letter is real. It's an actual HP error message that means load letter size paper in the paper cassette. But the message is so cryptic that most people never figure that out. Judge told the Wall Street Journal that printers are still horrible, and he's right. He said he gets messages from IT workers thanking him for making their daily nightmare visible to the world. The scene hits such a nerve that people now hold real printer smash events as therapy. Companies charge admission for people to destroy printers with baseball bats while dressed in business casual. There's a company in California that bought the rights to use the office space printer scene in their advertising for rage rooms. They report that printer destruction is their most requested package, especially during tax season and end-of-quarter reporting periods. Number 17 reveals the battle behind the scenes. Studio executives watched the dailies and panicked that Ron Livingston seemed too low energy. They sent notes demanding more energy and insisting Peter should smile more. One executive actually wrote that Peter should seem excited about his job at the beginning, so the transformation would be bigger. Judge fought back, explaining that the character's pre-hypnosis numbness was the entire point. The whole story hinges on Peter being dead inside before he stops caring. Those executive notes are now part of film history, proof that the people in charge didn't understand their own product. Judge kept the notes and sometimes reads them at screenings as examples of how not to give creative feedback. The same executives who worried about Peter's energy later complained the movie was too depressing, not understanding that the depression was the entire premise. The 18th Secret explains why the movie looks like everywhere and nowhere. Judge deliberately chose the most generic office parks flanked by the most generic chain restaurants. He wanted unglamorous sameness that could be any corporate campus in America. He was drawing on his own experience of indistinguishable tech parks, where every building looks the same and every day blends into the next. The location scouts showed him distinctive buildings with interesting architecture, and Judge rejected all of them. He wanted buildings that looked like they were designed by committee, approved by lawyers, and built by the lowest bidder. That deliberate blandness is why the movie hasn't aged. It still looks like the office park you drove past this morning. The production designer later said they actually had to make some locations more boring, removing any distinctive features that might give them personality. Number 19 shows how Texas casting created magic. The team used local casting director Joe Edna Boldin, who found Greg Pitts to play the unforgettable O-Face guy. She pulled from local theater and comedy clubs, finding people who had actually worked in offices and could bring that authentic exhaustion to their roles. Most of the background characters came from local Texas casting on a tiny budget. These weren't Hollywood character actors. They were regular people who looked like they actually worked in offices, which is why every background character feels authentic. Boldin said she specifically looked for people who seemed naturally defeated, who could sit at a desk and project years of accumulated disappointment without saying a word. Several extras were actually hired from temp agencies, told they'd be doing office work on a film set, which created the perfect energy of confusion and resignation. The 20th fact changed the entire structure of the film. Fox demanded a recognizable star, So landing Jennifer Aniston meant expanding Joanna's subplot. The original script had her as a minor character who appeared in maybe 3 scenes. The studio pressure to add star power accidentally created sharper satire about performative enthusiasm at minimum wage jobs. Aniston fought to keep Joanna unglamorous, refusing makeup in several scenes and insisting on the unflattering uniform. What started as executive meddling became one of the film's most quoted storylines about the difference between doing your job and pretending to love it. Aniston later said playing Joanna while Friends was at its peak helped her understand what regular workers felt like, that not everyone gets to love their job, and that's okay. Here's a bonus detail that sums up the whole production. The opening traffic jam scene was shot in 100-degree Texas heat with smoke from Mexican fires drifting across the set. The cast sat in cars for hours, genuinely miserable, which is exactly what Judge wanted. Even nature conspired to make everyone feel the authentic pain of commuting. Several extras actually fell asleep in their cars because the scene took so long to shoot, which Judge kept in the film because it was perfect. The smoke created an apocalyptic atmosphere that wasn't planned, but made the commute feel like a journey through hell. Office Space works because Mike Judge wrote what he knew and what he hated. He didn't mock the people. He mocked the systems that grind people down, one TPS report at a time. That's why a painted stapler became a real product and why a joke about flair changed actual restaurant uniforms. The movie didn't just capture office life, it changed it. Every time someone makes a joke about having a case of the Mondays or not having enough flair, they're participating in a revolution that started with one engineer who couldn't stand another day in his cubicle.